Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Miguel from the Children's Bread Deliverance Ministry Church here in Maryland. I am a deliverance minister and an exorcist, and I help people around the world. I want to tell you today about a very interesting book that I have. It is a 1793 Ritual Romanum. This is the rite of exorcism used by, the Catholics to cast out demons. The initial rite of exorcism was written in 1614, but this particular issue is 1793, and I have another one that's from 1733. And they're very old books, so you have to take very good care of them because otherwise they fall apart. So this particular copy is a very small copy, and it's meant to be carried around. The interesting thing about this particular copy is that this copy has every other rite um, that is used, like for example, baptism, marriage and things like that, prayers and blessings and things like that. But it doesn't have the rite of exorcism, and the reason why it doesn't have the rite of exorcism is because it wasn't a rite that was needed. It was expensive to make these books, and so at that particular time, they didn't include the rite of exorcism in this particular book. This was printed in Venice, and it was has parts of it that's French because it was used for a certain region of France, and so the French clergy will use this for marrying and baptizing and doing all kinds of ceremonies and things like that. Um, but it did not include the rite of exorcism. However, if you needed a rite of exorcism, they could go to the bishop and they could get a book that had the rite of exorcism there. But the interesting thing about this book is that a lot of time the clergy believed, the Catholic Church believed, that witches were able to call, even not even Catholics. I mean, even Protestants believed that back then that witches could cause storms and horrible things to happen by manipulating the wind and the lightning and things like that. And so this particular book has an exorcism against storms. And this the reason why they had this is because when they travel, they got on the boats, they were prayed, they would do an exorcism to make sure that they had safe passage as they were traveling. Okay, and this is the same thing that happened to King James. King James, so for some reason or another, his I believe his wife was traveling with a boat. They had a huge storm, and she got stranded in some country, and as a result, he blamed the witches for that, and then he started persecuting witches and things like that. But the interesting thing is, he wrote a book after that called Demonology, and it's basically a book on that he created. He created that before the King James Bible. So the King James Bible, King James the first is the one who created the King James Bible. Okay, but before the King James Bible, he created this book called Demonology, and it had to do with identifying witches, very, very similar to the Malleus Maleficarum. So it's a witch's hammer. So he created something similar to that to identify witches and to persecute them and all these things. But so he created demonology because he felt that some witch had cursed him as he was traveling. So this little book here, which is about the size, I mean, you can probably place it inside your pocket here. Very old book. Didn't have the rite of exorcism, but it does have a rite of exorcism against storms for that particular reason. So this is why this book is so interesting, right, and so rare because of the fact that it's old, and not only that, but it doesn't. It's a rite of exorcism, not a rite of exorcism, a ritual romanum, but it does include the rite of exorcism, but it does include a rite of exorcism against storms. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you soon.